Alright boys, it's finally time. I'm riding the unreleased Sportster S. It was definitely different than I was expecting. I was a little let down by it, honestly.
Perfect.
Welcome back to Life of Birch. This is Birch, and I could not be more stoked to ride this bad boy. I already did a video on the Sportster S 2 months ago, so go check out that for all the specs and features and all that kind of good stuff. This is just going to be like a first ride impression, so give you guys kind of the best of both worlds. And I am terrible with names, but I just met him. I want to say his name's Andy. I forget what his YouTube channel is. What's your channel name again?
Motos, Cades, and Coffee. Like I do arcades, motorcycles.
Okay. Motos, Cades, and Coffee. I'll link it in the description. Go check it out. He's a local moto vlogger also. He's getting the second angle.
You're good.
Sweet deal. Let's do it. All right, so we're at Harley of Baltimore doing some test rides. I already did a test ride on the Pan America and the Live Wire. Those videos will be coming out after this one most likely, but this is the one I was most excited about. I've never gotten to ride a bike that wasn't even released yet. It comes out later this fall, so I am stoked on this. We're gonna do like a 6-mile loop around, get our thoughts on it. Got the cool looking TFT display, which stands for totally freaking tight. Just kidding, I don't know if that's what it stands for. Well, I know it doesn't stand for that, but all right, let's start this bad boy up, see what it's made of. Ooh. Okay. This bike definitely has more like vibration to it than the Pan America did. The exhaust sounds okay. It's almost like a little like rattly, a little tinny, but that'll be fixed with some aftermarket exhaust. One of the big questions you guys had was how much heat would come off the exhaust, and I can say right now that already there's a ton of heat coming off of it. Not unbearable so far, but definitely a lot of heat coming off that exhaust. Got the forward controls on the bike. Not sure how I'll feel about that. Not my cup of tea, but it is what it is. Not to spoil the excitement of the Pan America video, but I definitely power wheelied the living hell out of it in first gear, so it'll be interesting to see if I can make the same thing happen on this one. You can see the mode right there. Got it in sport mode. Got the digital tachometer. Seems a little slow to react, but I guess we'll see. All right, visor down, and we're off. All right, yeah, forward controls already, super weird. Do not like the forward controls even a little bit. It's really weird because like you're leaning forward kind of with like a sporty aggressive stance, but then your feet are out in front of you and you're folded like a taco. I would love to get my hands on a model that has the mid controls. All right, let go. Alright, so not only do I not like the forward controls, but it's really strange, like, the placement of the shifter peg. If you're shifting down, your foot is, like, pointed straight up. I'm sure that's adjustable. I don't know why they haven't adjusted it. Maybe it's just me. Alright, the brakes are alright. The foot brake feels a little spongy, if I'm being honest, but the front brake feels nice and crisp, nice and responsive. Alright, so this should show you, like, if my foot's neutral, it's like this. So shifting up isn't a huge issue, but look at how far up my foot comes when I shift up. And then look at how it has to be to shift down. It's like, I don't know. Oh yeah, and the shift lever feels a little spongy too. That's what Bobby was saying. You push it down and it has like some play to it. So far the exhaust hasn't been too unbearably hot. I feel like I'm shifting up with like the top of my foot, not my toes, if that makes sense, because of the positioning. She's definitely peppy though. I kind of want them to get it further ahead so I can get on it some. She's peppy but not snappy, if that makes sense. It's definitely fast, but it's not like you hit the throttle and it throws you back in your seat. I am in lower RPM, so that could have something to do with it, but it's interesting because this bike has 121 horsepower, and I almost want to say my Rebel feels faster so far. Let's see. She pulls. I guess maybe it feels as powerful or more powerful than my Rebel, but not as responsive, and definitely has less twitchiness at low RPMs. This motor's super smooth. It is a bit hard to see out of the bar end mirrors. Not a huge fan of that. I'm gonna be honest, I was expecting more power out of it. The numbers say that it has a lot of power, but it doesn't feel like throw you back in the seat powerful. Throwing the bike side to side, it's interesting. I feel like the Pan America was more nimble than this bike. I know it sounds like I'm just being negative, but I'm just kind of like giving my thoughts. Oh, low fuel. Let's not run out of gas. It's a nice obvious warning though. And then to get rid of it, you click up, it looks like. Yep. And then it goes away. Nice and intuitive, easy to read. But yeah, with this fat front tire, I feel like this bike Oh yeah, man, it doesn't want to lean over that much. They said sport bike-like agility, and my Rebel is 1000% more flickable than this. Like, it'll lean, but you definitely got to like push on the bars and lean more than I expected, at least for the claims that they gave about it. Honestly, the Pan America I found to be more like flickable and agile than this. Let's get on it real quick. I don't know, it's just not that exciting. I want to say part of it is because I came into this with such high hopes, and maybe I shouldn't have. Don't get me wrong, it's fun, but considering the fact that this bike is $5,000 more than the bike that I ride, it doesn't feel like $5,000 worth of more fun and technology. Definitely has a lot going on the handlebars. This is just a test ride, so I don't have a whole lot of time to like tinker around with it and figure out what's what, but you can see it comes fully loaded. Suspension actually handled those bumps well. Watching Bobby ride it, it didn't look like the suspension handled it that well. Okay, yeah, it's definitely in sport mode. It was feeling slow enough that it didn't seem like it was in sport mode, so I had to double check. Okay, yeah, this is interesting. The front brakes are really responsive. I don't know if you can see that dip. The rear brake is spongy. The rear brake barely does anything. I'm getting more used to the forward controls the longer that I ride it. It's still not my first choice. And I don't know, just still the position of the foot peg, like the shifter peg is just, what are you thinking? It was definitely a little aggressive over those bumps, but nothing crazy. It's to be expected out of a bike that has, I think, 2.7 inches of suspension travel in the rear. Now, kind of getting back to the exhaust thing, I really don't feel the exhaust at all when you're at speed. I felt it when we were sitting there, but now that we're in motion, the exhaust doesn't bother me at all. My leg's not touching it even a little bit. You don't feel the heat. I did have a question from a subscriber about finding neutral, so when we come to a stop here, let's try to find neutral and see how easy it is. Oh yeah, and the clutch pull's really light. I feel like any other Harley that I've been around has a really heavy clutch pull. This clutch is super light, almost lighter than my Rebel. All right, let's see what neutral's all about. Boom, easy, first try. Neutral is not an issue, but it is really spongy kicking it down into gear. Just nothing about the bike feels super precise, I guess. So I will say that the position of the handlebars is fine. I don't feel a lot of pressure on my wrists or my palms. However, the bars and like the display are low enough that I can't easily see them when I'm riding and looking forward. I have to literally like look down, take my eyes off the road just to check the display or check the mirrors, and I don't know how much I like that. I'm sure I'd get used to it, but I don't like having to take my eyes so far off the road every time. All right, that bump was a little jarring. Oh yeah, that bump really just compressed my spine. And I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not, but the front tire, oh, that bump. That front tire is interesting. It has like a peak on it, almost so that it's like easier to turn with a tire that bulbous, but you can like notice like a V-shaped peak on it. It's interesting. Let's do the neutral test again, see how easy it is to find neutral at this stop. Let's see. Boom, first try. Wow, yeah, it's super easy to find neutral. You don't have to worry about that at all. Okay, yeah, it definitely felt fast there. I think I just need to get into the higher RPMs. Like I said, it's hard to see the display, so like when I'm going, it's hard to tell how high in the RPMs I am and how much more juice I can give it. So maybe I just thought it was slow because I wasn't revving it out the way that it needs to. Yeah, these back brakes are hot garbage. I'm like smashing it down and it's barely doing anything. Front brakes are nice and responsive, but the back brakes are a big letdown. All right, so you got the turn signals over here. Some Harleys have the left over here, the right over here. This has both turn signals on this side, which is how my Rebel is, so I'm used to that. All this controls everything. I don't want to start messing around with it. Oh, wow. Music, bike, settings, home, general, ride customization. Yeah, I don't want to mess around with that too much and get distracted, but it has a lot of technology packed into it. Like I said, check out the other video I did about this bike to hear about all the actual specs and features. Now, I know I talked about this in my other video, but now that I'm riding the bike, I really just want to like harp on it again. The fact that this bike has forward controls from the factory seems like a huge miss. I feel like it should have had mid controls from the factory and had an option for forward controls, not the other way around. On a bike this sporty, the forward controls just do not feel right. But if you want mid controls, it's like a $700 upgrade, which is just crazy. I mean, they know what they're doing. They're gonna get money off of it because of all the people that want mid controls, but it just seems like an oversight to me. Now, this bike has the 1250 Revolution motor from Harley. It's their like revolutionary new liquid cooled motor. It's super smooth. They have it in this and the Pan America, and I really dig it. It's obviously nothing like Harley has ever done before, but it's more like what I'm used to with my Rebel 1100. The power delivery on this feels smoother in the sense that, kind of like I said, like it has power, but it it doesn't feel like it has power, if that makes sense. Whereas my Rebel technically has less power, but when you get on it, it's like more immediate, and the Rebel just feels more responsive and snappy. So I guess it just kind of depends what you're looking for. I'm used to the snappiness. As soon as you get on it, it throws you back. This, it kind of feels like you gotta like wait for the power. Oh yeah, you guys probably can't hear it, but it has some really good deceleration pop. Ooh, yeah. See, okay, I feel like it definitely has more power than it let on at first, because I just got on it there, and it definitely threw me back in my seat. I think it's just like once it hits like a certain RPM, that's like the power's here, you know what I mean? So it feels like down low, it's nice and tame. Up high, that's where you get the power screaming. Still not as agile as I thought it was going to be. Ooh, bump. Ooh. Yeah. Okay. It's not great over bumps, but it's not terrible. Downshifting is super smooth. Definitely dig that. This turn up here that we're about to take onto the main stretch of highway is where I power wheelied the Pan America. All I did was literally open it up in first gear, and that front tire came up a lot. I'm a little sketched out to do it on this one just because the back brakes are so janky, but we might have to see what she's got. Okay, let's go. Oh yeah, she pulls. She pulls. That was only to 60, not even all the way on it. She freaking pulls. It definitely just has to be in that like higher rev range for it to do it. All right, so we're pulling back in from a successful test ride. I gotta say, I was a little bit let down. I think part of it's just because I went into it with such high expectations though. I think if I went into it not knowing anything about it and just knowing it's the new Sportster, I would have been super impressed. But I think the main things that got me were the back brakes are just terrible. The forward controls were a huge miss from Harley. They should not have put forward controls on it from the factory. The shifter peg is so high up that you're like reaching for it. The display is so far down and the mirrors are so far down that you got to take your eyes off the road to look at it. But the plus side is it's really manageable. It's not as agile as I was hoping it was going to be, but it is nice and light, and it's nice and tame down low, but up high she screams. Okay. Turn it off.
What do you think?
That was sick. It was definitely different than I was expecting. It definitely has power, but for the numbers that it has, I was expecting it to like rip me out of my seat, and it didn't.
You listen to the front?
No. See, that's the thing. I power wheelied this shit out of the Pan America, and then...
Yeah, same thing with this. I did both.
Really?
In fact, this was easier than my Pan Am.
Huh.
Alright, so we'll definitely have to compare notes.
Yeah, it was definitely fun, but I was a little let down by it, honestly.
It's really strange, because I was powering the crap out of it, like even on my ride right now.
Alright, so that was the ride on the Sportster. Overall, I was a little bit let down. I was talking to Andy, and he said that he kind of felt the opposite, that he was super impressed. Overall, I think it's a huge step in the right direction for Harley, but I think there's still some work to be done on it. But I don't know, it was a blast to ride. And then I'm going to do a quick little like interview type thing with Andy here. He's going to be posting on his channel a quick little interview talking about our thoughts, because he seems to like it a lot more than I did. Not that I don't like it, but I was let down in some aspects. So it'll be interesting bouncing ideas off of each other and seeing how we felt. So definitely check out his channel. I'll link it in the description. Other than that, like, comment, subscribe, check out the Patreon, all that other good YouTuber stuff. Love you guys. Peace.